Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Catholic Center Show. No, this is not the Catholic Center Show. That's my other show. This is the Catholic Show.
Cut.
I've said that so many times. It's just like a rote. I'm Catholic psychologist, Dr. Bryan Violette. I'm here with Catholic psychologist, Dr. Greg Bottaro. This is the CatholicPsych Show. We are ambassadors of the Catholic Psych Institute, where we provide services for psychospiritual issues, and we teach people how to provide those same services. And this show is about helping you make sense of a world that is increasingly making less sense as we review current events and items in the news, and we take calls and we talk with you in our community about it. And one of these days I'll know where I am, what I'm doing, and what's going on. Dr. Greg, how are you?
What are we talking about today? We gotta give the hook.
The hook is we're going to talk about AI today. There's a lot of stories, not a lot of huge stories today that we can talk about from a psycho-spiritual perspective. So it's going to be a lot of chippy stories, but you've got some passion. You've got some passion in your belly about the issue of AI. We've got some smaller stories about AI, so we'll see where it goes. And then if we have time, depending on our community and what they have to say, we'll get into some other issues. Might revisit some of the Pope's discussions.
There's also Biden Trump stuff, which we don't always want to talk about, but there's always stuff to talk about there.
Always stuff to talk about there.
And the AI stuff is the world is about to end. I'm pretty sure the world is. The other day we were talking about it's like maybe it's not apocalyptic times, maybe it is from the Pope Francis angle. But then now I'm looking at like just the pure technology angle and social angle. I think the world's about to end.
There's two things that we can promise you here on the Catholic Psych Show. Dr. Greg hates social media, and he's going to talk about how the world is ending. I will try to mitigate that as much as I can. This is not a doomsday conspiracy show, but Dr. Greg has got some opinions on this. So
so social media hatred, how ironic in the episode talking about it, then somebody starts commenting in our comm box, like precisely in the way that I was describing in the show as the reason why I hate social media.
Taking your line out of context? Was that the major issue?
Talking
about migration,
not just out of context, like not even listening to the rest of the show where I talk about basically saying the same things that the commenter is saying. And then the fact that this person was adding these comments onto the commentary box. And then I was like, well, that I was saying like it's inflammatory to take these things out of context. And then the comment after that was, how am I being inflammatory? It's like, wait, what? Anyway, the world is ending at some point. We do know that. It's like we all know we're dying, so we could talk about different ways that we die.
My world's ending.
I
almost had a heart attack. Actually, the top story today is the Boston Celtics, actually, because I almost had a heart attack last night, but they won game 1 against the Indiana Pacers. Jaylen Brown hit an amazing shot with 8 seconds left to send the game to overtime. But, my wife didn't know how to handle me last night. My father-in-law was also visiting. And so my father-in-law says, are you just inhibiting and not screaming at the television because of me? I'm like, no, when I get angry, I get quiet.
Is he a Celtics fan?
No, he's a Suns fan.
Yeah.
My wife's family's from Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona.
But they vicariously root for the Celtics, and it was a huge game. But it was an emotional roller coaster for me. So my life, I don't know if I'm going to make it through the series, much less the rest of the playoffs. So we'll see. My life might be coming to the end. My world might be coming to an end. So I'll keep everyone updated on the Celtics. Send mailbag questions about the Celtics exclusively to mailbag@catholicpsych.com. Or I guess you can ask other questions.
Subject line for Dr. Bryan.
Or Lord of the Rings. Celtics or Lord of the Rings. Celtics. We can talk about it. Yes.
Oh, man. Okay, so you're a little frazzled today.
No, I feel good. We won the game.
But I mean, that's a lot of emotion. I mean, emotion frazzles, positive or negative, right?
It's like Easter Sunday right now.
And just like Easter Sunday, we still know the world is going to end sometime.
That's right.
So one win is not exactly enough. It didn't actually get you through.
It's true.
Still, who knows what's going to happen next week?
Next week is in 2 days. Game 2 is tomorrow. It's going to be rough.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Meanwhile, I'm probably going to miss half the series because I'm going to engage in some activities designed for ages 3 to 5 this weekend. So
That's probably
kinda,
healthier.
not so sure. Not so sure.
You'll engage different parts of your interior
I'll
system.
report next week. About
Can't
my
wait to hear
experience.
about that.
Yeah. All right. So AI, we have a couple minor stories to talk about with AI, but
what are the minor stories related to AI that you want to cover?
Well, one is this idea of naming what's called slop. You heard of this term, slop?
Is this more TikTok garbage?
No, slop.
Okay.
First of all, TikTok is not garbage.
It's about to be outlawed. Like, it is definitely garbage, and it's absolutely like proven to be a tool of communist China. That's not even a conspiracy theory. That's like literally true.
Yeah, I know. But an American company might buy it. You never know.
Okay, so what's slop? Tell me.
So here's the quotation from the article. Your email inbox is full of spam. Your letter inbox is full of junk mail. Now your web browser has its own affliction, slop. Slop, quote, is what you get when you shove artificial intelligence generated material up on the web for anyone to view. Unlike a chat box, the slop isn't interactive and is rarely intended to actually answer readers' questions or serve their needs. Instead, it functions mostly to create the appearance of human-made content, benefit from advertising revenue, and steer search engine attention towards other sites. So, and this is the new version of spam or junk mail, slop. And the value of naming it slop is helping people kind of focus their attention on what it is. It used to be, spam. Before spam was named, you had this sense of like this irritating accumulation of email content that you're not sure what it is. You're not sure if it's a human or it's not a human. It was confusing, but by naming it spam, we could all kind of band together and create like a spam box where things go to spam. So I think naming this slop, which is not an attractive term at all, slop, is a step towards, battling against it. There's probably going to be slop blockers eventually here.
I mean, here's a side note. By the way, Matt Violette is on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
listening and commenting here. Is the name coincidence?
Never met him. No, that is my brother. I may be late to the party, but wasn't AI when you getting used to assist with buying lucrative stocks? Well, he's talking about using AI to buy stocks.
People. There are sort of algorithms and programs that people are making with AI to do really, really sophisticated stock trading, like day trading stuff that actually works. Side conversation here is how interesting is the naming of these things? Like, who would have thought that spam would have been like what took off?
I think there was a negative association with spam, the food that started.
Well, first of all, spam, which is like what it's like what does spam stand for? It's like something mixed with ham, right? What is spam? Ham?
That's a good question.
So when we get our producer, we're going to be able to ask that question over to be like, hey, actually, we could have an AI producer right now.
Shoulder of pork and ham.
Shoulder of pork and ham. Wow, I did not know that.
But now it means specially produced American meat. And others have called it sizzle pork and In any event, it's not. I don't think it's real meat.
Okay, so there's that naming convention, and then there was naming of junk email, and somebody decided to call that spam.
Yeah,
which is hilarious, and I have no idea. Like, I never would have predicted that would take off. And then, oh gosh, I can't wait to have an AI assistant producer. We can just like ask the questions.
I'll tell you what. I was on a meeting yesterday with someone that Catholic Psych was contracting with, and the whole time he had an AI assistant that was listening to our conversation and quote taking notes.
Yep.
And then afterwards, it was emailed to us the entire conversation. It was organized into like subheadings and topics we discussed with links to certain points in the conversation for review.
This is it. It's happening. Like this is
brilliant.
What I'm talking about.
It was brilliant.
This is happening. It's happening now. Like the time.
So how do you go from helpful AI assistant to end of the world?
Because it is the most brilliant. It's the most like quick. It's the fastest. Okay, so let me just finish my sidetracked thoughts. So that doesn't keep on coming back up. Is like slop? That's like the worst name ever for something that's definitely not going to take off.
No,
So
that's the
maybe
point.
I'm
It's going to take
spam
off
wrong
because
here, but
no, but I think that's why it takes off. Is because it's a terrible name to signify the
first of all, I
irritation that
still don't
people
even
have.
understand what it means. But it's just like what, junk internet?
Yes,
Junk. I don't get it. Like
junk
most
AI
of the internet
generated.
is junk.
No, but it's AI generated junk, like on your screen.
What does
It's
that
just like
even mean? What do you mean on my screen? Like the images, the text? What are you talking about?
images. Yes. Uh,
Everything on the internet is going to be slop then, because nobody's going to pay a real talent, a model or whoever, to sit in front of a camera when AI is already, I mean, it's already happening. This is already real.
yeah, AI models make it trivial to automatically generate vast quantities of text or images. So all the marketing that's shoved down our throat, no, there's no human driving that. AI is just like blah. Here's all this stuff. Buy these products. Here's brand
Internet
awareness.
is going
Whatever
to
it is.
become like a garbage dump.
Yeah,
It's
kind of upsetting.
there's like all new industries that are going to have to emerge out of this, like filters, like how to find good content in the garbage dump. I mean, who I can't even wrap my mind. Is happening so fast. But I watched. So the thing that's prompting this conversation is that they just released, I think last week, ChatGPT 4.0,
Yes.
which O stands for Omni. It's not zero. It's like 4 and then the letter O.
Right.
And Omni, because it's the first model that will take on different kinds of content at the same time. So the problem was that there used to have to be processing between like reading text and then recognizing, understanding it, and processing it. So like image production was like you read text from a prompt, and everything, like the first wave of AI is like all these people are like, all right, we're the best prompt creators. And they're going to teach you like the way to use AI is you have to know how to write a prompt. And a prompt is
Right.
basically the instructions.
Yes.
So it's like the futuristic coding, but you don't need to know computer coding anymore. You have to know how to speak to an AI
Yeah.
language
Qualitatively, you
learning
just
model,
yeah.
and that will give you the output. Like you can get better output depending on how good your input prompt was.
It was like user friendly coding. You can just anyone could speak into it, and then
Yeah.
you can get it.
Well, this is the first model now that takes in any kind of input. So it's not just text, it's pictures, it's voice, it's sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of
Yeah.
it's going into the computer at the same time. It's not being translated from one to another.
Right.
So now the tonal qualities of the words that are being spoken are processed immediately at the same time. So now AI can be sarcastic.
Right.
AI can be humorous.
Empathic.
AI can be empathic.
Yeah. I saw this one video of a guy who was wearing this goofy hat for a job interview. And
Yeah.
he asked the AI whether or not that was appropriate. And she was like, laughed. She's like, well, you look like you're ready for an adventure, but you might want to consider wearing a different hat for your job interview.
And
It was
she
very human.
I
It was
saw
like
that one too.
eerily human.
Yeah, so and it was like she boosted him up first. She was like, "Well, I can see that you're willing to put yourself out there, but this might not be the right opportunity for that."
AI therapy is on the way, isn't it?
I we're about to be out of a job.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing. Like at first I was like, "Well, it'll never be as good." And based on the old AI models, it won't be as good. But this is going so fast that it will there's nothing there's gosh, I don't even know how to articulate these thoughts yet. This is also where I'm saying it out here publicly. I've said it a few times. We were talking about people like that need to get out there and put themselves out, and we're like, I was early on this. Like, go watch my video from 2012 where I called the end of the world. Well, I am calling this. There is a very deep connection between psychedelics and AI.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's missing is that the thing that's connecting it is that it's creating an experience that is on some level indistinguishable between the real thing and the artificial substitute.
And there's hope that there can be some kind of signification that something is AI, but there's going to be black market versions of this. There's no way that every piece of AI is going to
why
be
would
filtered.
that even be a hope? Like what? There's no.
Well, there's people that are. I mean, you're not the only voice crying out in the wilderness about the dangers of this. I mean, story that we didn't actually get to last week was I can't pronounce his name, but Ilya Sutskever, the left OpenAI. He was the chief scientist that called for the resignation of Sam Altman,
Right.
for fear that the technology was moving too quickly.
Right.
Sam Altman was pushing in the direction of profit only without kind of ethical concerns being considered, and he left. So people are aware that this is incredibly dangerous.
It just doesn't matter. It's like what's happening right now. It has like blown it out of the water. It doesn't matter. It's like we're still sitting here talking about like what are the proper safety protocols for building a space shuttle, and like should we even be like, you know, risking people? And meanwhile, it's like we've already landed 7 Milky Ways away. Like Elon Musk is already building the town on the planet that's 7 Milky Ways away, and people are here on planet being like, well, we should probably consider what the right seatbelts are to put on the space shuttle. Like, it's done. It's already happened.
Yeah.
There's no way that this is not happening.
You think we're past the point of no return?
We are absolutely past the point of no return.
Well,
you have AIs talking to each other.
That's pretty amazing.
That can understand, that can nuance, that can plan, that can like have shared goals.
So what is the fear?
I don't even know. Like, I can't even conceive of what the fear should be. Like, if you think about it, it's like, all right, we
actually, Dr. Bryan died about 6 minutes ago. I am not Dr. Bryan at all. I am AI generated.
You died last night watching the Celtics.
He had a heart attack last night. Finally,
by the way, I did see that sad story about the flight turbulence, and the guy on the plane had a heart attack and died because they dropped 6,000 feet in like a minute.
I was gonna get real vulnerable with that today because I have a fear of flying.
I was like, this is
not helping.
We should not talk about today.
This is not helping. I have to fly to Arkansas in June. I am not excited about it.
I don't even know. Like, I don't think it's even like Terminator. Like, oh, we have to be afraid of like the machines turning against us.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's so far past that. Like, that's not even. I really don't even. Like, as soon as they get programmed with enough, like, maybe it'll be to eradicate humanity. I don't know. But I mean, you add in, like, the climate change stuff and, like, all of this climate ideology and complete disregard for human dignity. Like, these two major leftist positions.
So you're saying, like, make decisions that are best for the climate over what is best for humanity? That kind of logic?
Yes. We're done.
Could be. Well, we're not really helping the environment all that much. I think that much is clear. Not that we should be putting it.
What in the world are you even? Are you just trying to be argumentative for argumentative sake?
Well, listen. One of the articles was that the doomsday iceberg is melting. You heard about this? The doomsday iceberg is melting. There's an iceberg the size of Florida.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, well, maybe this is like the right way to use the technology. Like, let's put AI on that. Like, come up with some freeze ray that can reconstitute the iceberg or something.
Is the counter argument, and one of the sub stories today is about Neuralinks and how the first Neuralink was given to a man where I believe he's a
quadriplegic. Oh yeah,
quadriplegic. He had no use of his arms or legs, and in having the Neuralink in his mind, he was able to move a mouse cursor and play chess with people.
Yeah,
and so the idea is that AI, I mean, the charitable, optimistic view of the use of AI is that it's going to help us improve our experiences in life and help people who otherwise would be relegated to significant physical suffering, or it's going to cure cancer. Like there are a lot of hopeful uses of AI.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying that that's not the case. I definitely, I just think everything is going to change in our world, hopefully for the best. And I think we are just not even able to really understand how much everything is really changing right now, like immediately, like this week.
Yeah.
Like what changed this week is actually going to be like the rest of the future of. I mean, we could say that always in general and in abstract, but like no, literally this week, like GPT 4.0 is actually like leaps and bounds a whole shift for all of humanity.
Would you get a Neuralink?
Maybe.
After all that, say more, please.
Well, okay, so
I didn't know what you were gonna say. I had no idea how you're gonna answer that.
my buddy Dan's always saying like that we end up with all these gadgets. Like we I love technology. I love learning how stuff works.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was 16 and I got a new car, a new old car, and I took it all apart and I was like, I love mechanical stuff. I figured out how to like build in wiring to connect stuff that I wasn't supposed to be connected. Like I just love gadgets, mechanical stuff, and technology. Okay,
Right.
so and we have all these, I have like a really fancy coffee maker because I love coffee. You can like hit a button and make like whatever you want.
If only we could figure out how to take phone calls on the Catholic Psych
I know
Show.
we can't figure out phone calls here, but we can. We just sacrifice quality over. Anyway, that's another story. But so my buddy's like, he's always like, oh yeah, you're like the technology guy. He's like, if I ever have a gadget question, I'm going to ask you. And the other day he was over here and he's like, if I was president of the United States, I would have you as like on my cabinet as like chief gadget officer.
Inspector Gadget.
I would be Inspector Gadget. The gadget inspector, if you will.
Yes.
So my gut reaction on all this AI stuff is like, no, I'm not putting that in my brain. But then the other part of me is like, let's be honest.
I mean,
this is so deeply a part of my personality that I don't know that I would be able to not put it in my brain.
I think the visceral reaction is if there's a chip in my brain that someone could have control over that chip and therefore have control over me.
Right.
That's the fear. That's the paranoia. I mean, the optimistic view is you become like Lobot from Star Wars or Data from Star Trek, where you have the superhuman brain. And, I mean, not even just that, but even like AI, like body enhancement.
Yeah.
Like there's the masculine dimension of who I am that is concerned with competency, and like my limitations are based on what God gave me. Right. And I'm supposed to accept that cross as part of my path to heaven and my spirituality. But what technology and AI and Neuralinks and all these things offer is a way to transcend my body and what's been given to me. And I mean, it would be really cool to not actually have to Google, but just like, like Dune, what's the Dune version of the Dune version of this? Like the Mentats, the guy that just goes like this. And then he like figures out like all these math problems in like 2 seconds, like probability of like weather patterns and stuff in like 2 seconds. Like that's pretty cool. I mean, I do like sci-fi.
No, but I think it is really cool, but it's also like, it's not even just, I would push back a little bit on this whole, like, it's the limitation that God gave us type thing. Cause it's not, if we recognize this appropriately, and I think this is where the technology has gotten, is like, and the technologists, they realize that the answer is not to come up with machine learning that's better than human learning, but the actual best option is the combination, the collaboration. And it's like a deepening of the collaboration to have computers and machine learning that
just
can
like a
enhance.
Wheel. The wheel is technology. It makes our lives better.
Exactly. The computer itself. So like if we look at this as say, okay, there's a human computer interaction, then how do we get that to be our model? And it's like, okay, does it matter if the computer's on the desk or in the brain, like underneath our scalp? What does it matter? Like, it's just a location.
Does it make us less human somehow? Like, is there some kind
No,
of
course not.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's someone much smarter than me sitting in a dark tower somewhere with steepled fingers, reflecting philosophically on how this could be damaging to the human spirit or
Listen,
soul.
that person already exists. They already created TikTok. That's the brain. That's
somehow
the brain.
we bring it back to how bad social media is.
This is exactly what TikTok is, though. It's communist China manipulating human behavior through technology. Who cares if it's sitting in your hands?
That happens in Facebook too. It's not just TikTok.
Okay, Facebook though is not the guy in the tower that you described. There's evil intent. It's malicious intent, specifically malicious intent behind TikTok.
Well, there's like voter influence. Maybe it's not malicious in the sense, but it's
I would fight back against that hard. I would say, look, as much as I disagree with liberal left politics, I don't think that they're malicious in their intent the way communist China is, that they want to actually disassemble and take down Western culture.
I agree with that. Yes.
And they created TikTok to do that.
Perhaps.
No, they definitely did. This is already new, like news. This is like actual fact. Mm-hmm. That the parent company ByteDance has two separate algorithms, and maybe more, but they have like the same algorithm computing is creating two radically different sets of data for people in China versus people in the United States. And in the US, they proliferate with pornography and pro-Hamas and like anything that is going to actually create division,
civil unrest
in America.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you go to like TikTok China and you see what they're doing, what's like trending on their pages, which is supposedly
like kitty cats.
No, it's like motivational stuff. It's like business, how to like entrepreneurial things, like how to be the best version of yourself, like how to create unity, how to have cultural, national.
I'm not
pride.
on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. But can you not create your own personal algorithm that consists of content like that, like you can on any social media platform?
No, there's no. They will use some of your behaviors, but it's like a big part of the mystery of like how there's something called the For You page, and that's like the main scroll. And there's like always a mystery of like, how do you get on the FYP? How do you get on the For You page? And then you
hashtag FYP, baby.
Yeah. And that's what you have. They're like, oh, if you put hashtag FYP, you'll end up on people's For You page, whatever. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. It's like, I started a brand new account when we were thinking about putting Catholic Psych on there, and it was all like Catholic, and it was like virtue stuff, and it was stuff about psychology and mental health, and I was like looking for other people on there. Within like 2 days, it was just like pornography. Like all the scrolling down the stuff. It's like, what is going on right now? Like, there's no way that the algorithm is not being influenced specifically to do this. And then it's all of the gender stuff, and it's like weird gender stuff, and then it's just out of control.
Yeah.
So it's no different. Like, what does it matter if it's a phone in your hands that's changing human behavior, or if it's a Neuralink that's directly tapped into your physiology? I mean, you certainly have more freedom to put the phone down. Yeah. So you can make that argument that this is a different level of severity.
Yeah, I think I have a little anxiety about having it in my brain. Like, you can't take the chip out. I mean, unless maybe you can. Maybe it's like you just put it right here and like click it in and out when you want. That would be cool.
Well, so the first Neuralink that was implanted, it was too superficial. It was underneath the scalp, but then I forgot I read how many different of the wires disconnected.
85% disconnected. But
so they're like,
the FDA just approved the
number 2
transplant,
right?
Which supposedly is fixing 85% that 85% of the disconnected wires.
Yeah. Can you imagine being the quadriplegic and he's like playing chess, and then all of a sudden he can't move the cursor anymore? It's like, oh no, awful. The wire's disconnected.
That poor man.
It's like, what are you gonna do? You got to go back in and like have him reconnect. It's like somebody
like a huge
unplugged
surgery.
the wire.
I imagine it's like a surgery. I don't know what it looks like, but
I mean, we're out. This is like a whole nother level. By the way, Leslie says, praise the Saint Rita feast day today. Yes, Saint Rita's feast day today.
Holler back, Saint Rita.
Happy
Help us
feast
make
of Saint
sense.
Rita.
Yes. Another AI related story. Scarlett Johansson. Did you hear about Scarlett Johansson's involvement with AI?
I did not.
Hollywood Actors Union, SAG-AFTRA LMNOP, voiced support yesterday for Scarlett Johansson after the actress raised concerns over OpenAI's new artificial intelligence chat box that features a voice that allegedly sounds similar to her own. So OpenAI unveiled its latest model, ChatGPT 4.0, last week, allowing users the ability to converse with an AI system. At issue is a persona named, quote, Sky. So they approached her last year and asked her if they could use her voice because she was a fictional character in the movie Her, where she was an AI, a person that she was like an AI girlfriend that was fallen in love with by Joaquin Phoenix was the main actor in it, and he had an AI girlfriend. It was kind of like this, like prophesizing what's coming in terms of AI girlfriend.
Yeah,
and so, I mean, rather than seeing that film as a cautionary tale, they're like, "How about you just make Scarlett Johansson your girlfriend, like we did in the movie?"
Yeah,
and she said no, but then they sort of did it anyway.
Co-opted her voice anyway.
So yeah, so now they're pushing back. I don't know if it's at the legal level yet, but there's a real pushback from the perspective of protecting artists' voices and likenesses from unauthorized replication. So that's the thing that scares me too. It's like AI could watch this video, and then create another one with us making it say whatever it wants us to say.
That's already possible. Definitely.
I know, but it's terrifying.
I mean, I've done it. I've played with it and created videos of myself, and you could do it in different languages,
right?
Which is amazing. I mean,
it's amazing.
This is just an amazing time in history, but it's crazy what the ramifications of this are beyond what we could imagine is actually going to happen.
Yeah, we don't have anybody chiming in on this. All our faithful listeners, people don't have some thoughts on AI.
We've got the Wifty says this is interesting.
Yeah.
Your brother wants to talk about ayahuasca. I don't think we're there right now. We'll come back around to that. Don't worry. We've got some people listening on Instagram here, but no comments or questions yet. Leave your comments or questions in the chat if you want to chime in on this. We haven't set up our call-in lines yet. We set them up, but we don't have as good a video quality when we use that platform. So we're going to wait on that.
We have our creative director, Mike Marshall, chiming in. At least it can't make art. Oh, wait. We're all going to be out of a job.
Mike, it will never make art as good as you make art. So don't worry. You have job security. As long as I have a say in it.
As long as you have job security. Mike has job security.
Adrian says it makes me want to join the cloister ASAP. Yeah. Adrian, you already want to be in the cloister anyway, so that doesn't it doesn't like much. We know Adrian's already discerning religious life, so we're praying for you, and let's pray to Saint Rita for your vocation as well together here.
Well, it's speeding her up though. She wants to get in the door faster.
She wants to get out of here. Get out of this place.
Oh gosh! Again, going back to this show, this show that I'm watching, which is the prequel for Yellowstone. I watched 1883 and now I'm watching 1923. And there's this whole speech.
Wait, is this a whole nother show?
Yeah, these are two prequels, different periods of time, which lead up to the main show, Yellowstone.
Like a whole series of episodes for each time frame?
Yeah, so Yellowstone's the main show. So that's 5 seasons long. That's with
Kevin Costner?
Kevin Costner, right. And then they made 1883, which was like about the trip on the Oregon Trail to move across the country, starring Sam Elliott, the mustache guy.
Yeah.
Best cowboy there is. And then Faith Hill and her husband, Tim McGraw, starred in it, and they were amazing. And they were the original Duttons, the Dutton family, and Kevin Costner is John Dutton. I think it's John Dutton in the main show. But then they just and that was only one season, so it's 10 episodes.
Oh, okay. It's a whole
season.
But
they also made 1923, which is very interesting because You have the cowboys of Montana still riding horses. Then you have like the introduction of cars
Oh,
and
wow.
the urbanization of the area and the tension that's like being experienced between the old way of life and the beauty of the land and the natural world and modernity and all the conveniences that it offers and washing machines. And it's just like this resistance versus like, it's like progress versus tradition, all like in one world.
It's so fascinating.
Right. And it's interesting to see it like visually live as it's happening, to see like the cowboys on their horses, like with people driving their, Ford Model Ts right next to them. It's fascinating. And but that's only one season so far, but there's another season of 1923 coming out. There's not another season of 1883 coming out. But it's interesting. There was this scene where they're trying to run, which is the common thing. They try and run the Dutton family off their land. And they're trying. Harrison Ford, by the way, is in 1923. He's the Dutton in
Oh,
Jacob
nice.
Dutton. Yeah, and they're trying to run the Dutton family off their land for the purpose of progress. And there's this big selfish businessman played by Timothy Dalton, who's the former James Bond, one of the James Bonds, great actor. They're trying to run him off the land, and there's like murder and like all this drama, which is typical of Yellowstone. And Harrison Ford gives this speech about what he's actually fighting for. And he said, "I want you to imagine New York. And I want you, last time you went to New York, and it's, it's what, 35 miles of cement and concrete and pavement and buildings. And I want you to imagine that same piece of land without all of that. And when there were trees that were higher than the buildings, and like, you could walk across the streams because the salmon were so thick." And he's like describing this like idealistic view of the old world and the natural order and the beauty of it and the threat that technology and modernization is coming in, and how it's going to ruin their whole way of life. And like, it's kind of a microcosm from where we are now. It's like there are people who are holding on to the old way of life. I mean, ultimately, he lost. Jacob Dutton lost the battle. Modernity swept its way through, and I guess maybe that's what your point is. Like, there's no holding back the tide of progress here.
Well, we'll talk about like wrapping all this together. Then how about, all those like things that were positives to culture, but then also going back to the like all of the climate change stuff. And again, not falling in line with like climate ideology, but let's just say that there is a consequence to all of this technology, like at large, like across 150 years. So all of these advancements, technological advancements, maybe have accelerated the degradation of the climate and the world around us. And so we don't have like chock full streams of salmon in New York anymore, in New York City anyway.
Weren't there, when COVID hit, weren't there dolphins like swimming in like the canals
I kind of remember that.
Of Venice again? There's like dolphins
Yeah, I do remember that.
in Venice.
So we have, so like if, but this is exactly what's happening. It's basically the same trajectory. It's the same, like there's a continuum of technological advancement, but the negative consequences are accelerating. So it's like maybe the Model T was part of, like maybe it's taking 150 years for the Industrial Revolution to like show its consequences. But now we're at the end of the advancement phase, and it's like now things are happening so fast. It's immediate.
So fast. It's crazy.
And so now the consequences are going to be accelerating as well. And for all the good things that they can do and all the reasons why the washing machine was invented in the first place, like I don't think there was as much, I don't know, I'd love to watch the show. But like when you went from like no washing machine to washing machine,
yeah,
it's like, was there this like radical shift in human consciousness and society? Maybe to them it felt like that, but like if we go traveling and we're in a place that doesn't have a washing machine, it's like, I mean, our life is not radically changed by saying like, all right, let's wash these clothes by hand, or let's, hang them up to dry instead.
Yeah.
We could do that. Like maybe that just takes longer, but it's not like this radical shift in consciousness. But
well, it's funny.
Now it seems different.
No, it's a great point. And it's funny, there's this dialogue in the show where they were like, the cowboys were having a conversation with a salesman for all these modern conveniences and how electricity was going to come through, et cetera, et cetera. And the cowboys were making the point that's like, you're selling us electricity and then you're selling us the products that need electricity, right? And then he said, well, if we get these conveniences, like what are we going to do with our time? Like if we're not doing chores, what are we going to do? And he's like, well, other chores. He's like, well, what happens when you give us ways to no longer do those? He's like, you can play games and have more fun in your life. And you think about the gamification of society now and where we spend our time. And it's like, it's largely on interests and escape. And it's like, it's at the, when we don't have to work in the same way, it does free us up. But what does it actually free us up for?
But exactly. And this is where I actually think it's the downfall of society. It's not just because of the technology, but it's because of, this goes back to like the fall of Rome.
Virtue.
And it's a lack of virtue, and it's an acceleration of like the breads and circuses. It's like, let's just keep the people fat and happy. Let's keep them entertained. Let's just give them like more, like, let's give them the Celtics to get all like, obsessed with and riled up over. But it's not just, obviously not just sports, but it's like, which is why like the level of sports, the money,
fanaticism,
but also just like the
sports
industry
as religion
around it.
Sports as religion. People are obsessed with sports.
Like I saw an article once that showed like what a charioteer in Roman times made. And it was like to today's standards, it was like $1 billion in their lifetime. Like a charioteer
that's fascinating. It's like the same thing, relatively speaking.
Exactly. And then I fell into this rabbit hole of all this P. Diddy stuff that's happening now.
I don't even know. I was going to bring that up several times, but I don't even know how we talk about it. It's just awful.
But it is awful. And it's also indicative of like a whole underworld that we are not aware of that's actually happening all the time.
With people who are in power that we don't even have
access to. People in power, in entertainment, all this money, all this stuff around LA, all this stuff around different parts of the country. And they have these parties and they have all these things that happen with blackmail. And then they have these circles, which is not to come back around to Cat Williams again, but this is what not the Joe Rogan Cat Williams interview, but the other interview that Cat Williams recently did, where he blew the lid off of all of this Hollywood stuff, all these different like comedians have the same pact, and there's this same crew of comedians that are like basically the in crowd, and if you're not in the club, then you can't get all the same contracts and deals.
This reminds me to say something important about 1923, actually, because they actually depict this. They depict the P. Diddy world also. Timothy Dalton, who's the villain, and this is the one thing that I want to like say for Catholics out there who might want to be interested in the show to exercise caution, because there's some like graphic sexual scenes at like towards almost the end of 1923, which is seemingly out of place. There's none in 1883, and then for most of 1923 it's not there. But what they do is they show
what about Yellowstone? Isn't there some in Yellowstone or no?
I don't know. I haven't really watched it in depth. I don't think it's like actual. I mean, I think there's sexuality, but I don't know if they show anything graphic. But there's nudity in 1923, and there's these like sequence of sexual scenes with the villain Timothy Dalton, who is trying to buy up all the ranches, and he just talks about money and power and legacy wealth as a way towards immortality, and getting your name on a building as a way towards immortality. But they show his sexual kind of perversion, where he has these two prostitutes and he makes them beat each other.
Oh, jeez.
And he sits and watches, but he explains why it's arousing for him, because he's like, enjoy the power of hurting the other person. And it's like, how is that different than P. Diddy, right?
No, it's not. So this is the thing, that if you study the psychology of some of these things, it's like after wealth, like you can only make so much money, and then you just don't need like money. Money has a limit of what because once you have more money than you need, or more money than you can do something with, like
or even spend,
numbers, it's just more zeros. Like it doesn't actually have any real effect on your psychology.
Right.
So if you have $10 billion, or if you have $100 billion, or if you have $1 trillion, like at that point, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like how many private jets could you buy? And then you're like, I just need now I buy an airfield. I buy all these jets. Now I have 10 airfields.
I could buy the Celtics. We could say
you buy the Celtics, okay, but then what? It's like, it's like you're not. There is going to be a ceiling where it psychologically matters to you.
It doesn't matter anymore when you have that much money.
So once these people make this amount of money, then what's the thing that's more than money, or the pleasures that come with money? Now it's power.
Right.
And manipulating other people and becoming a kind of marionette, like a puppeteer that can basically being like God.
Right.
And it's not about money. It's not about, hedonistic pleasures. It's about moving people, changing, like manipulating people. So if you can blackmail, if you can, you have the levers that you can pull, that you can get people to do what you want. That's what we see as this really demonic entrance into humanity of a manipulation, distortion of the human capacity.
It's like Satan tempting Christ, like, here's the world. I will give you the world.
Yes, exactly.
And this is what the world offers. And it's not joy, peace, happiness, truth.
Yeah, so I was watching like in 2020, 21 after COVID. Then this guy was like, he moved to LA. He was, YouTubing was becoming more popular. It was like the clickbaity era of YouTube. And this guy moved to LA. He got invited to this party. Yeah. And then it was like one of these eyes wide shut parties with like everybody's wearing masks. You get a code name. Yeah. And they go through these rooms, and each room actually literally represents one of the 7 deadly sins. They had like participate in all these things.
Is someone you knew, you said?
No, on YouTube. I was watching this story of this guy. And he ended up like, they asked him like at the end, to get into the last room, you had to renounce your particular God. And you had to put your hand on the holy book of your religion and say like, I am my own God. I take orders from no one.
Apostasy. Yeah.
And then you go into this other room, and this guy refused and he ran away. But anyways, the story, the whole point is like, there's this whole echelon of this upper crust of elitism of society, actors and politicians and people that have the money, and then they go to that next level of like moving chess pieces around on the board game.
It's so interesting. I mean, what you see that kind of thing in movies, right? And it's hard to believe in a certain sense. There's a part of me that finds that hard to believe. Like, is there a group of people that's small enough that's absolutely like controlling the world and people in the world, the sheeple, for their own gain in a way that has no regard for humanity and is only about self-service and profit and power? And like, there's 2 questions, I guess. Do those people exist? Number 2, do they have that level of power where they can actually manipulate people?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it's really interesting. Let's look at our, first let's look at our psychology. Like, why is that hard to believe? Like, why do we have the tendency to blow that off? Like, it must be overreacting.
Well, only because it would seem to me that there are more Cat Williams. There would be more Cat Williams out there. There's more whistleblowers. There should be more whistleblowers. There should be more people that push back against it, that don't get sucked up into it. And it's like, how does it remain secret? That's my question.
But it's because of the nature of the blackmailing that's going on. Like, all this Epstein stuff really happened. Like, it's real. I mean, and you could go back to like mafia stuff, go back to organized crime, go back to, I mean, this stuff has just been happening. It's very clearly true. It keeps happening. Then like these P. Diddy videos, all this, all these different things are like proven true. But then we all have this tendency to want to put it into that category of conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why do we have a bias against truth? And we want to like, I don't know, maybe it makes us too uncomfortable. We have to take deeper account of what we're actually subjecting ourselves to.
Well, I think it might be the way that we're constituted. If we're built to worship, we're built to trust a heavenly Father who loves us, then our unconscious assumption has to be that the powers that be are trustworthy. I wonder if the way that we are made, the way that we are situated, if we're built for that eternal communion with a loving personal God, then in our psychology and in our life, we don't automatically assume corruption. I think we automatically assume goodness and the benefit of the doubt. And so it's like, it does create a cognitive dissonance to think, wow, all these people have control over me in a way that's harmful for me. Like, what do I do with that reality? Like,
Yeah.
I might think, if that's true, I might think, well, I need to go do something about it. I need to change that because that's not right. That's not good. And some
Right.
people, I guess, speak out against that. But me sitting in my own little world at my computer, I don't feel like I have tremendous amount of power to do anything about it. So the most convenient thing probably would be unconsciously to avoid it as true.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's the cognitive dissonance,
Mhm.
and then just to find that path of least resistance psychologically is to just
Because
like
because regardless, I got to go make a sandwich in a couple
right,
minutes.
and then it's like, well, there's people that think the Earth is flat too. So, like, what are
Right.
they saying about P Diddy? Like, this is all ridiculous.
Right.
It's
It's
like,
hard to
well,
trust
there's
all the.
video. There's
It's the
actual video evidence now.
it's the age of disinformation, right? And
Right.
then, I mean, and then you see. Did you ever see that movie? What's the movie with Mel Gibson? The Mel Gibson where he's completely paranoid.
Conspiracy theory.
It's literally called conspiracy theory. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he goes off the grid and has
Yeah.
all these conspiracy theories, and he's crazy, but it
Yeah.
turns out that he's right.
Yeah.
So I think that's another part of the problem is a lot of people who are speaking out against this don't appear to be the most emotionally stable of people.
Right.
And so,
Well,
like,
that's it. Like, that's why Cat Williams is so fascinating because he's like, I didn't pay the price. I didn't go to P. Diddy's party. Cedric the Entertainer, stole all my jokes and nobody called him on it because I'm not in that club. And then also, the aliens dropped off the green stone in the year 453, and it gave
Right.
this information to humanity that we're using for time travel. And
Right.
all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute. And then it's like, well, wait, we see the video of you telling these jokes in 1996, and then Cedric the Entertainer is using them in 2001.
Right.
So that part is true. The green stone in 453, I don't know how far I can follow this.
I mean, you think about it, this is a classic lawyer's technique, isn't it? It's to discredit the witness.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if those in power, like I'm just getting crazy, but like you could think about those in power actually trying to find ways to discredit the people who are speaking out against them by kind of like inserting confusing, insane kind of theories into like the person's psyche and mind anyway.
This is what this kid who ran away from this party in Hollywood said that they were then like after him for like a couple of weeks, intimidating him. And they told him he better like never say a word or anything like that. And then they sent him like this letter handwritten. And then, but then he said what they would do is they would break into his apartment and he never knew how or when they did it. And they would change things that were so subtle
and make him sound crazy.
That if he ever told anybody, he would sound crazy.
Right.
But there were things that he knew were not the way that he left it or how it was.
It must be so disorienting for him.
So it's like all psych ops, right? It's like all this psychological warfare. And that's how they're doing. Like they definitely can employ those tactics. They definitely, like the cults, like think about it, all the like Scientology stuff and like all this other stuff. They obviously know how to use these tactics.
I wonder how far back this goes. Maybe because we live in a global society, it's like on a larger scale than ever before. But I mean, this kind of thing probably goes back to the 13th century where monarchs were doing things like this, right? Like this has probably always been a part of the world, don't you think?
I mean, it seems to me like we could probably find correlates in Roman Empire. Like this is all part of that elitism. When there's so much leisure, there's so much time, like to the point of the show that you're watching.
Right.
Like when you have all this wealth taking care of all of the work that we need to do, then we have all this time.
So that if that's true, that would suggest that perhaps it's not the end times.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Like, I mean, when you brought up the example earlier of the Roman Empire crumbling, and it was Augustine, right, who argued toward the like Christianity was being criticized as being the reason for the fall of the Roman Empire. And Augustine responded saying, your own philosophers, your own Roman philosophers have been discussing how your empire is crumbling for hundreds of years because of the lack of virtue. Like, don't blame Christianity. It's your own fault. Right. And then if you compare the Roman Empire to what's happening in the West now, like, is it so much that Christianity, like you could see like the critique of Christianity being the fall of the United States and the West, but it's like, no. If people were actually
interesting point.
If people were actually living this faith virtuously, we wouldn't have problems with AI and shadow puppet governments and et cetera, and the internet and TikTok and everything else. It's like, these are people that are not actually living a Christian life, which is the argument that Augustine made 1500 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. And actually, it does add like such an awesome hope to it. It's like, it's not the end of the world. It's the end of an era. It's an end of an epoch. It's definitely the end of this like horrible relativism, this postmodernism, and like maybe it's going to go even faster.
On itself. It folds in on itself. Maybe this is haste. Yeah, maybe that's what this is. It's hastening the end.
So this is the springtime that I was saying. Like we this is like the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. I was like, I was hoping we could have some of that before the end of this world. Maybe we will.
Well, maybe we will, but more likely, like our grandkids will. Like,
maybe
we're in the thick of it. I don't know what it would take besides a saint, right? All the great moments in history where things.
Well, we have Saint John Paul too. He's the one that's he's the one that's right on that cusp.
Whose philosophical and psychological foundation we've built our whole model of delivery, of mentorship, and Catholic psych.
It's
services
like,
on.
I feel like it's like Moses going through the desert for 40 years and then he has to die before he can enter the promised land. It's like, and then we get to just like take the staff like right across the finish line. It's like, let's bring it right into the new place. Thanks a lot, JP2.
Yeah.
But this is it. Think about, even if it means we're fighting and dying for this, for our kids, our grandkids to live in that springtime, like, praise God. That's awesome. How beautiful is that? And this is really, it's like Christendom 2.0. It's like maybe that's what we're just like, actual Christendom as like a cultural, societal sort of reality. Maybe this is going to be the 2.0 version of that comes through that cycling of after the fall of Christendom and then postmodern relativism, and then that's going to fall in on itself because of the lies of communism. And then we're going to have Christendom 2.0.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking there was a couple movies that were coming to my mind as we were talking today. One is WALL-E. Did you see WALL-E?
Yes.
When they had all the modern conveniences, and they were just like sitting like overweight in their chairs, and they didn't have to move because their lives became easier and easier. So that's one. And the other one that came to my mind is that movie Idiocracy. Did you ever see Idiocracy?
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Oh, it's so good. I think you'd thoroughly enjoy that film. But it's the same thing. It's essentially the same thing.
That's cool.
So probably good to wrap up. Good timing.
Well, here we are, end of the hour.
Not the end of times, just the end of the hour, guys.
So did you decide, are you gonna pop in on Friday, or do I have to find a stand-in co-host?
No, I'll be here. I think I'll be here on Friday.
All right, see you on Friday then.
Somebody's got to temper your doomsday glacier.
All right, have a great day. Happy Feast of St. Rita, everybody.